Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Buenos dias, señoras y señores. Good morning, brothers and sisters, everyone out there. Hi, I'm Bronson. Welcome to Breakfast with Bronson. Today I have a very special guest, Pastor Siegfried Neuendorff.
Das ist korrekt.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen.
Alles geht gut?
Keine Schmerzen.
Das ist besser.
Yeah.
Let's go in English for all my watchers out there. So I want to tell you guys just a little bit about how we met. One day I was at church and someone said, hey, you know, there's a German church right around the corner. And I said, wirklich? You know, like really? And you guys know I'm part German and I studied in Germany. So I said, I'll go over there. And I walk in and here is Pastor. And I was just so amazed by his story. And I wanted to have him as my special guest here on Breakfast with Bronson. So go ahead, take it away. Let's start off, where were you born? And yeah, let's start from there.
I was born the 23rd of November, 1933 in Berlin, Germany.
There you go.
Yeah.
Berlin, Germany.
Yes. And it was about, just a minute, about 3 years before Hitler declared the Second World War.
Mm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So back then, for us nowadays, we hear on the radio, we see movies, we listen to people's stories about World War II, and like I think you have such a great perspective on it that I really want to give you this time to share with everyone because your story is just absolutely amazing. And he's put his story into different books. There's this book right here called The Last Train. This one was
The Last Train Out.
Yeah, The Last Train Out.
Yeah.
It is an amazing book.
This written by Wellesley Muir.
Yes, it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and but this book has part of your life story in it.
Everything. He asked, before I published my own book, he asked me, can I use a story for my book?
Right.
I said, go right ahead. So he wrote it in third person, and I wrote my book in first person.
Right, and then your book is over here, Make Me a Blessing. So if you guys want to get these books, absolutely amazing. And let's just get started. So you were born in 3 years before Hitler declared the war. And so take it from there.
Während des Krieges und natürlich der Krieg, die amerikanischen Bomber kamen systematisch und wir hatten Bombenangriffe ununterbrochen.
So that the American came and you were bombed and bombed and bombed.
Yeah, oh yes.
And then, what was the first memory that you have, like your earliest memory that you can remember?
Yeah, we lived on the borders of Berlin, and in a small bungalow, if you want to call house. My father had built it, and all of a sudden I heard Moo, und da fragte ich meine Mutter, Mutti, seit wann haben die Nachbarn denn Kühe?
Yeah.
Since you just have cows?
There was a cow.
No. They said that's the first bomb attack. Oh.
Yeah, right, the sound is like that. No?
Und als ich dann hier eingewandert bin, 1954, die Ambulanz hat mich gestört. Auch weil auch die Flugzeuge, das gleiche Geräusch, das hat mich gestört.
So the sound was similar to the ambulance and the airport.
Yeah, I just heard. Und auch seitdem, den 4. Juli, wenn da irgendwie Feuer ist, oder das neue Jahr, ich brauche kein Feuer mehr zu sehen.
Right. So when that was something interesting that when I studied in Germany, in Magdeburg, in the Neff in Magdeburg, in Friedensau, we were eating in a cafe, and we had all the good Kräuterbutter, right? Yeah. And then with the mashed potatoes, and we had really good food from Germany there. And then all of a sudden we heard this sound, and this was like in 2006, 2007, and we heard the and then us Americans knew that sound from the films, like, so we knew that meant like bombing back in the day, right? And then so we're in this small town, they still use the thing for when there's a fire, and so us Americans were thinking like, oh no, it was gonna happen again. And then then someone told us, no, it's just when there's a fire they still use that system in smaller towns. So let's go back. So the first thing you remember, that's what you remember about it wasn't a cow, it was actually the bombing.
Das war ein Bomber. Und dann mussten wir jeden Tag, jeden Abend. We speak German noch.
We can do it in English. I can translate.
All right. No, dann ist es. Und wir mussten dann jeden Abend zu am Bunker gehen.
So you have to go every evening to the bunker, right?
3 Stock high. Und wir hatten die Zelle 33.
Wow. 33?
33.
There was 33 people in the bunker.
Wir waren
Every evening.
mit 2 Familien waren so lang, bei 3 Stöcke sind 2 Stockwerke.
Wow.
Und während eines Bombenangriffes, da muss man eine andere Familie reinnehmen.
Wow. So as the time went on,
Ja,
you had
ja.
more and more people coming in.
Ja, nur während ein Angriff.
Okay.
Und dann noch eine andere Sache. Während des Krieges hatte ich immer eine Sorge. Einmal hatte ich eine Gasmaske vor meinem Mund.
Really?
Und ich hatte Schwierigkeiten zu atmen. Ja, weil man, später als Soldat habe ich gelernt, ja. Und das traumatisiert mich. Denn ich habe im obersten Bett geschlafen. Da war eine Tür, eine Eisentür, eine Klappe. Die machte man die ganze Nacht offen. Aber so wir einen Angriff hatten, da musste man das zumachen, damit kein Gas reinkommt.
Right.
Und das war immer meine Sorge.
So now when you sleep, the windows, you always make sure they're closed.
No windows, steel doors.
Oh, still doors.
It's
Wow.
all steel, yeah.
Wow. So when you were in the bunkers, that must have been an interesting moment because it's like one of your first memories.
Ja, oh ja. Die erste Sorge.
Yeah.
Die erste Sorge. Aber wir hatten kein Gas. Und als ich später ein amerikanischer Soldat wurde, da habe ich in Fort Sam Houston, Texas gelernt, die Amerikaner hatten überhaupt kein Gas.
Right. So question for you. Let's go in English for
Yeah,
my
okay,
friend.
that's fine. That's fine.
But I love your German. It's beautiful. When you were as a kid growing up in Berlin, you were very proud to be a Berliner, right?
No, wir waren Christen, so den Nationalgeist haben wir nicht gepflegt.
Right. It was just you were German.
Wir
Right?
waren just German. Wir waren nicht politisch eingerichtet.
In your book, Make Me a Blessing, I love the chapters where you were talking first about your family and your mom. Your mom it just seems to be such a powerful, amazing mother of like faith, and she just her faith in action is, I know, right? I get goosebumps too. Her faith in action, not just like she prayed every day, but there's so many stories of her where she's just like, I believe, and because I believe, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna go.
Sie war ein Kolporteur.
Okay.
Und sie wurde getauft, als sie 23 Jahre alt war. Und das ganze Leben über hat sie wie ein aufrichtiger Christ gelebt. Ja.
Let's tell them that in English.
She was born in 1903, but she was baptized when she was 23 years of age, and she was very faithful, and she was also a colporteur, did that for a while, and she was very determined to be faithful under all circumstances.
Do you know where she met your father?
It's too long. I can't remember that. That's just not that. I can't remember the details.
Well, maybe later I'd like to know where you met your wife, because I know the story of it. It's a good one. Because a lot of days now, times people our age, we're getting married later and later in life, right? Not so young as we used to.
Ich habe das auch aufgeschoben.
You tried to do that too?
Oh ja.
You tried to put it off?
Als wir Soldaten waren, alle Kollegen als Soldaten, comrades, yeah, they had girlfriends. And when we were able to go home after 6 or 8 weeks from Fort Sam Houston, and they went to visit their girlfriend. You have a girlfriend? I don't have a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And why? To be married was for me too great of a responsibility.
Wow. I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, and then I figured if I have enough money to buy a 747 that costs about $40 million, but if I destroy a heart, like a lady's heart, how can you replace a damaged heart? That's why I was very careful before I tried to show interest in and a lady.
Right.
But I'm all boys, that's it.
But then also, you met your wife through your mom, right?
Sie hat sehr geschoben.
Yeah, she saw her, or she met her,
Yeah,
and she was like, "Wait, you speak German, right?"
yeah.
She speaks German, so right there you're in.
Yeah, my wife was from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Her father had come from Russia, from the Caucasus, and they lived there for. They received a free farm from the Russian government, and as long as they would become farmers, they would get free property, but would not have to pay taxes,
Right.
and they would not have to serve military service.
Mm.
And that lasted so long until the music changed, and my mother's Großvater, no, meine Frau, der Großvater, wurde erschossen
Yeah.
von Dieben,
Right.
die Pferde oder Kühe geklaut haben.
Wow.
Und darum haben wir gesagt, no, wir werden lieber nach Russland, nach Kanada auswandern, und haben das dann eben gemacht.
And then she met your mom, and then
No, ja, nein, meine Frau, Evelyn, oh, I have to switch your link.
that's the beautiful thing about being multilingual, you guys.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like having multiple cars. Which one do you drive today? Whichever one you want, right?
Yeah. No, I speak Spanish, German, and
We'll get into Spanish later, so sit down, buckle up. It's a good one. So wait, let me tell you. So when you met your wife, we're gonna bounce around here, but when you met your wife, your mom introduced you to her, right?
She insisted I should meet her. And I didn't have any interest,
Right.
because for me it was a great responsibility.
I think that's beautiful. I wish that more people nowadays will keep that in their hearts.
But she's auf der Farm groß geworden,
So she's
She
in the farm.
arbeited.
She grew up in the farm, right?
and she had a nurse's degree from Loma Linda.
Well, perfect. So she was
Yeah.
already in there. She was established. She wasn't a little girl. She was a
Yeah.
woman then.
Yeah, oh yeah. We were about 23 years of age.
Wow.
Und als ich dann, du musst die Messe kennenlernen. And I switched the language again. My mother organized it. He said, why don't you do this? You take Papa to Redlands so he can pick up his car.
Yeah.
And I have this young lady, she'll be accompanying you. I wasn't ready to meet anybody. And as we ended up in the Redlands and picked up the car, I had to drive with her home.
Wow.
And as we drove through Retcha Canyon and then again to Loma Linda, I had a blue shirt on, blue eyes, and she fell in love with me.
That's the trick, you guys. Blue shirts, just like he has on today. Match your eyes to your shirt.
Yeah. And anyway, and she took free the next day and the following day, etc. And then I had to go back to Fort Sam Houston to finish the 16 weeks of training. And from then on, she started sending me poetry. She sent me nurses singing, 3 nurses. I said, well, it sounded nice, but I didn't have any interest yet.
Well, ladies, see, that's another trick. Send them poetry, okay? Try that one out. I mean, why not? You know, if you never write it, they can never read it.
Yeah.
That's what I truly believe. Now, question for you. Let's take it back. So you were in Germany, and the war was happening, and then the war ended. And then you were still, I mean, the story is just amazing. You guys got to read it. It's really in this book. You have to read it. I mean, I was stuck there glued. I was reading it to my grandma and my mom too.
Yeah.
We were having story time. It was beautiful.
I have to interrupt a little bit because Berlin was divided into 4 sectors.
Yes.
See, the Russians and the Americans have made an agreement. The Americans would stop at the Elbe River
Yes.
with the French and with the British, and the Russians would have to come Berlin and then the Elbe River. And while the Americans waited now at the Elbe River, the Russians came, and then they realized, well, the Russians have the capital city, Berlin, and we don't have anything. the Hauptstadt.
Right.
With so they made an agreement in Potsdam to let's una tregua to make let's
treaty.
discuss it. Yeah, a swapping. We return to you Thüringen and Sachsen, and you give us 3/4 of Berlin, and that's how we ended up in the American sector.
Do you think that your life would have been completely different had you not ended up?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Did you feel like you were very proud to be in the American sector compared to the Russian?
My cousins lived in the French sector and in the Russian sector. It was amazing. It's socialism.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my cousins and aunts, they were not they were not Christians. They know how to fluchen.
Yeah. Okay. So they
They
got
used
by.
bad language. So and then, like I say, then in 1940, 48, 49, the Russians blocked us off.
Right.
I have a book on that here, Brave Young Men. I should show you the book. And what they did, they blocked us the river, Havel, all the freeways, all areas, and they tried to force us to belong to the Socialist Party.
Right.
And 83,000 West Berliners sold their souls to socialism, communism.
Wow.
But then 1,200,000, they said, oh no, we belong to the West. And so the Americans who formerly dropped bombs felt now they had a compromiso.
They had like a promise, right?
They had to maintain us. And that's how they established the Berlin airlift.
Yeah, they dropped in the supplies, right?
No, they brought it in Tempelhof. First in an airport in Tempelhof, and then in two in Tegel, and then they needed more place, and they built another one.
Wow.
In the book, the Brave Young Men, it's very touchy.
It's a beautiful story to know, and I feel bad for a lot of people nowadays who don't maybe find history that interesting, but I'm glad that you're able to bring it to life to them, because you can learn so much from every single day.
And as you entered my house, you saw the American flag.
I was looking, I was thinking, which house is it? And I saw the American flag, and I thought, of course.
I have that American flag every day, and
and for you, the American flag isn't political. It's just being proud of your
I'm
country.
glad to be here.
Right.
I'm grateful, and I can't understand at times that so-called Americans don't like this country.
Right.
They court socialism, and I've lived under socialism. It's all profit and a big lie.
Right, and I think there's a lot of people that might have a different perspective or have different worries or concerns about the country, and maybe feel not heard, and that's why they sort of lean towards to not really like what's going on too much. But I always tell them, like, speak up. Like, if you have a concern, if you're in your country, in your job, in your family, anything, you should speak up in a polite way.
Oh yeah.
Right, and that's serve it on a silver platter as opposed to
without hatred.
Yeah, without
antagonism.
Yeah, try to with love, right? Everything in love.
So having received the attention of the American Sky Masters, they came supporting us for about 9 months. I felt, let's say, indebted to them. But then later on, I became a custom tailor.
Right.
I studied tailoring for 3.5 years. Why 3.5 years? Normally 3 years. Well, I kept every Sabbath.
That's beautiful.
And I had to work a half year longer with low wages.
Well, some people that are watching might not know what the Sabbath is. Do you mind explaining to them why you keep the Sabbath and what does that mean?
Yeah, from childhood on, I learned that we should be following the Bible. And my parents took me to church on Sabbath, which is Saturday. And we got used to it. The young people and our neighbors were immediately neighbors who were Christian. They were Seventh-day Adventists. So I grew up in an environment. But religion was not pushed in our house. But that I can remember yet, very vividly. Every time when my mutti,
your mother,
mother, when she read the story about Abraham, how he was asked to sacrifice his son, Isaac. I tried everything.
It's sad, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I tried.
And they have to hike up the hill. Only they go all the way up the mountain, right?
Yeah, where's the sheep?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
no, this that it leave me a deep impression. Yeah.
But I love that your mom shared that story because it shows faith in action,
Oh,
and
yeah.
her life really showed faith in action as well. So it makes sense that she would draw inspiration from that story.
But maybe I should mention something like this. I don't think it's written in my book. Our house lived on a strict discipline. As soon as I became a lehrling, an apprentice in tailoring, well, I earned 6 marks.
Wow.
That 6 marks had to be taught out at the house.
Really?
If you live in the house, you know what it says in the Bible: he who doesn't work doesn't eat.
That's true.
So, yeah, I had to give the 6 marks to the second year of apprentices, 7 marks, then 9 marks. That much money when I was a tailor already.
Right.
That much, you don't like it? Here's a suitcase.
Wow.
So,
Ship up or ship out, right?
oh yeah, yeah. So I left the house when I was about 19 years of age.
Wow.
So my life has not been cushioned. So very strict.
And
no,
do you feel,
no hatred.
Do you feel like that has made you who you are today?
But there are so many young people who are so spoiled brats.
Yeah.
No, but when you drove up, strict builds good friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents always cared for me. But, while I was still in Germany, remember Hitler? Have you read it?
Yes.
Yeah, Hitler wanted to preserve his youth. He needed future soldier. And we were getting very nervous. So he shipped us as young people. Oh, by the way, I had to belong to the Hitler Youth or wouldn't get food stamps.
And that's the whole thing of how people don't understand is that, like, even though you were part of the Hitler Youth, it wasn't really optional. It was just like everyone had to. And also, like, if in your neighborhood you were the only young guy who didn't join, I'm sure the neighbors would start saying something and be like, why?
My dad, he read the Mein Kampf, Milucha,
Yeah.
and he said, I don't understand at all, but we are not part of that party.
Right.
And that impressed me. And also, yes, my mother's, we should have put the picture here. My mother had a lady friend, Frieda Linden. She was a Jewish lady, very attractive, very educated, and she was married to uncle. We called him uncle, He was a bank employee. And since she was a Jewess and he was an Anglo, an Irish, she received food stamps.
Oh, wow.
But what would her relatives do? Well, they didn't have any means because they lived they had to hide out. But then my mother had the idea. She mentioned to Tante Frieda, the way we called her, you tell your relatives of Myers to give to my mother certain trinkets, maybe a ring, a watch, a crystal, or anything, a picture, anything. And then my mother would take this. She went to her relatives in Repinchen. That's about 60 kilometers south of Berlin, and she would trade it over into food.
Wow.
And so sausages, ham, butter, potatoes would be too heavy. But then on Sundays, it was my job to distribute this food to the Jewish families.
Right.
So since my brother, he was also the Hitler Youth, but he was for the party and I wasn't for the party.
How did that did he ever try to make you beef towards the party or convince you, or was it never something you said?
Oh yes, a long story about maybe 8 or 10 years ago. My brother degenerated completely, drank and smoked and had several wives, etc. And he lived in San Bernardino, became schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And
we can show a picture of him.
Yeah,
that's him, right?
Yeah. Then he was very bright, very intelligent. He had a press pass, etc. And I know that's sidetracked. And as I tried to take food to him in San Bernardino because I felt sorry for him, and together with my son Harold, and he and my brother had no shoes on, like a homeless person. And all of a sudden, while I was sitting on a cracker box, Harold was standing up. He came here. You're Esau, and I'm Jacob. No, you're Jacob, and I'm Esau. Right. Und ich wusste nicht, ob mich angreifen würde.
You didn't know if he was going to attack you or not.
Fight or flight.
Yeah.
Fight or flight. I wasn't ready, but he didn't touch me. But I saw his ira, or his anger.
Right.
Yeah. And but hey, you call it construction barn is
right.
scary. Yeah. I didn't do 2 weeks later when he died.
Wow.
So I had to bury him. I
wow.
didn't have to stay. There are too many stories.
No, it's your life story is so interesting, and I'm glad that we get to share it today with my viewer, because it's like around every corner there's a lesson that you can learn, and that it's really showed to like what your life that you've lived by and how you've been able to have such a great life.
But also my father. See, we lived in a bomb shelter, but he had to look out for a house. So he made himself, we called it an headlock, a hole in a bunker in the backyard.
Wow.
Oh yes. It was about 8 feet long, about 3 feet wide. He put 3 layers of bricks, 2 layers of 4x4s, and then 3 for dirt. And whenever there was a bomb attack, he crawled into it, and you could never light up a light, so the American bombers would know
right.
as a resident. And one day, while he was sitting there, shh, he heard a sound. Shh. He couldn't go outside, but the next morning when he crawled outside the bunker, yeah, he saw an incinerator bomb.
Really?
Yeah, which had penetrated the three feet of earth, 3 layers of bricks, 2 layers of bricks,
wow.
and it got stuck in the last 4x4. The next morning...
Of his bunker?
Of his bunker. And then he was a Tischler. I don't want to cry in here, but he measured out how deep it had penetrated and got stuck in the last 4x4. Had it gone through, it would have gone to his neck, he would have been dead.
Wow.
Yeah. And then also, he was at the beginning of his war, he was 33 years of age, perfect age of a soldier, and he had to be drafted. But his employer, Knoblauch, he called him now Walter Neuendorff, is a very important war employment, yeah.
Right.
He was building ammunition boxes.
Wow.
And then, anyway, and then at the very end of the war, they called it Volksturm, just like Volkswagen. Right. Everybody had to be drafted. And again, my father was also called, but the employer told him, Walter Neuendorff is very important for the war construction. He was building coffins.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he got out, and then we had to return our small radios, Rundfunkempfänger, and the Nazi government didn't want for you have any information from foreign information, yeah?
Right.
Where the Americans were in the troops. So he had to return the radio too. And he said, I have to go to the bathroom. Went out to the bathroom and back home again.
Wow.
And then when the downfall came of the German government, he basically was going under the fire of the American and the German army. He was right in the middle. To the right of us, the Daimler-Benz
right.
built tanks.
Wow.
Yeah, and anyway, but he survived in with 127 bomb attacks. We never even lost a window. Then we had a cupboard with Einweg, canned fruit, since we had a small yard. The
shelf?
The stand of glass fell on the concrete floor. Not one gas broken.
So all the fruit was preserved?
Oh yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah, and then also...
That your mom probably made, right?
Oh yes.
See, us nowadays, we don't understand that because, like, we buy everything from the store. It's like, yeah, we'll buy another one. But back then, it's like, no, the peaches that we canned are out of season, so you're not going to get them
From
again.
the backyard.
From the backyard. I wish we should have that nowadays. See, like for us nowadays, we can't even imagine that, like waking up and there's a bomb in your front yard that almost killed you, like your father.
Yeah.
We can't understand that. Like it's very hard for us to understand that.
Oh, one bomb of this incinerator fell into a schuppen, or that's a shed.
Really?
My dad was a tissler or cabinet maker, and he doused the fires of one of our neighbors, Santa Manda, an auntie, and as he came back through the keyhole, we saw a light of the shed,
Really?
and there was an incinerator bomb smoking away, smoking the Angora wool. Angora, do you know,
Yeah.
rabbits?
Yeah.
It smoked. Why didn't it light up? Another miracle.
It's amazing.
I don't want to start crying.
No, it's amazing how when you look back, you see God's hand in your life, right?
Oh, definitely. And then also, since before the downfall came, my mother and I, we went to Repinchen, about 60 kilometers south of Berlin, and it would be safer in a small village.
Right.
So my dad was by himself, but there was a Tante Hete, it's a lady, an abbess lady was our neighbor, and she had a 16-year-old daughter, Trautchen, and we have to protect her. So what did I do with my dad? Could you open up the first
No,
picture?
that's perfect.
Put your picture, first picture. Help me out.
It's amazing how like the whole community really came together too. Like you didn't forget anyone.
See, while my dad.
This is the house.
Yeah, this is a house, and in the attic. What did he do? He asked Trautchen, Lena, and her mother to hide out, so the rest
In the attic.
and so they were in the attic here, and so they were never bothered. So we have to look out for each other.
That's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
a question for you.
Yes.
There is a series that talks about, it's called Hunting Hitler. And did you see it?
No.
It just came out in 2014 about, it's theoretical, it throws out theories about how they think that it's possible that Hitler did not die in Germany that day and that he escaped to South America.
Yeah, we've heard that. A lot of stories.
Since you were a missionary in South America, in Peru for...
Oh, no, I was, first of all, I lived in Poland for a year.
Okay.
Maybe you forgot.
Well, you lived before that, when he was in the Hitler Youth. We got to get to that story. That's a good one.
I had to...
But my question for you is, do you think it's a possibility? Because you were even a radio ham operator, right?
Oh, not then. I was just only 13 years.
But in South America when you were there. So I was thinking
That's too early.
your perspective would be very, very interesting.
No, let's say, how should I say? We were always being alert.
Right.
You have to watch out, yeah? And anyway, Hitler wanted to preserve his youth.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that needed soldiers in the future. And we were getting very nervous. So since I was a member of the Hitler Youth, socialism takes control of the youth.
Right.
And so I was shipped to Poland with 35 other boys. And
You have to tell them the story about with your friends bringing you sandwiches.
oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Don't make me cry.
That's a good
No,
one.
I tell you, so for me, it's like reliving it again.
Right.
Yeah. So in the Hitler Youth, no one beat us. Nobody. We would care. We were not abused,
Right.
but strict order. We had to march. Everything discipline.
Pünktlich.
Yeah.
Honest pünktlich.
Yeah,
That's what I learned
pünktlich.
when I studied in Germany. You better be on time.
No, you better.
Today I was 10 minutes early. My German teachers would be very proud of me.
Yeah. Anyway, so how do we come to that now?
So you were
Oh, and the Hitler Youth.
you were
yeah.
in Hitler Youth
And they treated us well, no problem, but all in discipline. And I remember one Sunday we came home from a march or spazieren through the forest. We went to the kitchen, everything disciplined, and we picked up our food. And I had some potatoes, Kartoffeln, and then some beans, and then there was a fish. And the fish looked at me And I said, I remember Mutti or my mother told us some fish we should not eat. Yeah, and
And you were about 10, sorry, you were about 10 years old then.
let's see, 33. No, I was 12 years old.
12 years old. So he's about
Yeah,
12 years old.
Anyhow, and so what about? I don't know. I forgot which fish were clean, which were unclean, and I made up my mind. I was thinking about Daniel. Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not contaminate himself,
Right.
but there was a risk. I would be punished. So I asked my other buddies, who were about 4 or 5 around the table. I said, "Would you have my fish?" "No, I don't. What of my fish?" "How can I get rid of the fish?" And while they were busy cleaning the gratin, we call it,
Right.
the bones of the fish, I said, well, they were all busy. I took my hand, went over to the dish, get the fish and put it
He put the fish in his pocket.
in my pocket. And so I was the first one finished with it. I cried. Anyway, look at me. It bothers me when I think about it. It was so real anyhow. And so I went at the first one to the kitchen. I cleaned up the plate. What should I do with the fish? I went to the sleeping area. And where can I go? I went to the toilet. And that's a good place
to release it into the ocean.
No,
In the toilet, and eventually.
A garden to
Oh, whoa.
No,
really?
toilet. No.
Oh, not like the automatic.
No.
Oh,
We lived in a
like outhouse.
Yeah, a regular outhouse.
Oh.
Oh yeah, and he thought nobody had seen me. Was innocent, and all of a sudden the lady director, I forgot her name. She said, "Siegfried, was hast du getan? What did you do?" Yeah, I don't know. I'm innocent. Now, what did you with the fish? Yeah, well, how can you waste Hitler's food? Die Soldaten don't have enough food, the prisoners, etc., and you dump it out. I said, I'm sorry, I should not be eating it. Why not? Well, what would be my punishment? That we were not punished very strong with whips. I thought maybe knee bands. I would have to stay in the corner with cold water. I said, no. She said, Siegfried, I have a better idea. You won't be eating for a while. You're not hungry enough. So, when you're not permitted to eat, that's when you get hungry.
Right.
So then in the evening, I sat in the sleeping area, sat on a bench, and I said, well, where are the ravens from Elijah? Where are the angels that protected our prophet? I will be crepire now. I will be dying here now. And I was concerned. And then all of a sudden the door opened up, and here one of my buddies, one of the same
Remember
age,
his name?
No, it's too long.
They were just like your friends in your,
yeah,
in your class.
we got along. We were peaceful together. He said, Siegfried, are you by yourself? Yeah, I'm by myself. I brought you a sandwich.
Oh.
I said, so I was just eating. I was so happy, etc. And all of a sudden the door opened up again. Siegfried, are you by yourself? No, we're two. I brought you a sandwich.
Like
And
the ravens in the Bible.
The door opened up constantly more until I ended, I don't want to tell a lie, 6 or 7 sandwiches.
Wow.
I couldn't eat all the sandwiches. What shall we do with the rest of the bread?
Oh no. Another, don't put it in the toilet again.
It in another toilet.
Give it in the toilet again.
I'm sorry, but it's a real, what shall we do?
Oh,
So we were all...
because you couldn't have food in the bedroom area, right?
No,
Like,
you shouldn't leave it out of the kitchen.
You wouldn't leave it, yeah, so that's what you might not understand, like, and back then in the wartime, the food was so precious, so like, and all the food came from...
We licked our plates even.
Yeah.
And
so it hits differently, right?
that's for me, it's just like reliving it again, yeah.
Right.
And anyway, and then the lady director called me in again. Siegfried, das geht nicht. Du bist ungehorsam hier. Hier und also what's going on? I said, schreiben Sie bitte zu meiner Mutter. please write a letter to my mother. She
Yeah.
can explain it. And after whatever a week or two, my mother wrote to her a letter and indicated that we are believers in God. See, they would not have recognized Seventh-day Adventists because the congregation was not very well known. It was a small church.
Right.
Anyway, and again, the lady director called me and Siegfried, come to my bureau.
Come to my office.
I have, your mother wrote me, and I think what we can be doing from now on, every time when you have any meat or fish or anything, you give that for me, and I will give you then my dessert. I still love to eat desserts.
Don't we
That's how
all?
my problem was solved.
Wow. And so afterwards, the woman who punished you actually understood.
Oh yeah,
And then she got extra meat, and then you got her dessert.
that's right.
That's beautiful to see the resolve as well.
That's
once-
the first spiritual experience I had, and
Wow.
it brings tears to my eyes. So yeah.
And it gives you that example, Beispiel, it gives you
Yeah.
that example for the rest of your life, that you can remember that, how if God showed up with you from a whole bunch of friends with little sandwiches, then he'll
What?
show up forever.
All with the U.S. Army too.
I mean, we have to tell them that story. So question for you. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's now very important too. My mother.
Yes, we have to tell that story. You really got to get the book, okay? You really got to get the book. It is a great read because it's true, and you can learn so much from it. So you were after that. Your mother wrote the thing, and then all of a sudden one day you're there.
She showed up.
She shows up in Poland. But tell them like how she got there, because it's not like here nowadays. You could probably buy a flight to Poland for $500.
You could not drive more than 100 kilometers.
So you couldn't go more than 100
All
kilometers.
wheels run for the war.
Right, so that they
Yeah.
wanted to conserve the resources for the war.
So my mother, as she was, she figured I have to get Siegfried. It's too dangerous, and she gathered some clothing, shirts, pants, socks, whatever, and put it in a baggage, and went to to a train going east to Frankfurt an der Oder. Frankfurt am Main, Frankfurt an der Oder. Oh, where's the ticket? I don't have a ticket. Would you want to have a shirt? Or you want to have it? Oh yeah, give it to me. And then the Schaffner,
Yeah, the
conductor?
Conductor, yeah.
conductor, took this. So she bribed her way all the way to Poland. And when she was in Poland,
Wow.
well, and she had me out of the Hitler Youth camp.
Yeah. She just shows up one day and you're like,
She showed up. Where's my Siegfried? Well, he belongs to the government now. No, he's my son. I'm going to take him. Siegfried, let's go to the sleeping area. Get your stuff, whatever. We had just a few things, and we went left on the other side of the outside the camp, and I was at school, the Polish school, and then she had the idea. I'm going to go to visit a Polish family, Pucciniak.
yeah.
I can remember all the names. Anyhow, and she didn't speak Polish, but they must have understood her. And she said, I have clothing. Do you need clothing? Oh yeah, but I need food. So I get myself back to Berlin again. So she swapped, call it swapping,
Yeah.
and I got maybe some sausages or whatever, and hitchhiked back with me to Berlin.
On the last train.
On the that's right.
that comes to this one. There
That's
you
right.
go. And that's this
That's
movie. You
right,
gotta
yes.
see The Last Train. Because Last Train Out.
It's the last train out.
Yeah, The Last Train Out.
Yeah.
It's amazing, the story, because Poland, where you were, was on like the far border of the occupied area of the Nazis.
The war wasn't over yet.
But it was Poland is more towards the outside
yeah.
outskirts.
Yes.
And then so as Russia was coming in, then pretty soon, like the Nazis or German forces at the time couldn't go in.
My mother wanted to get me.
Right,
So
and she knew it was coming, right?
Oh yes. And many of the church members here in the church, yeah, they were in that Russian zone too. They had to flee, etc. Well, I came back with my mother, was the last train out.
Wow. And it just goes back to, again, like faith through works, right? Like it's not just I believe.
Oh,
Your
no,
mom
yes.
was like, I believe and I'm going to go. I believe and I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but you know that God will help
Yes,
you.
and then when the Russians came closer to the last battle of Berlin, my mother decided that she would go with me to Pilsen, where she was born.
Mm-hmm.
My brother was shipped to Czechoslovakia.
Right, so that's the difference, and I'd love to talk about that because he went to a different Hitler youth camp, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
And he
But
was in
different country too.
Czechoslovakia, right?
The Czechoslovakia.
Do you know why that happened?
No, they just see you lose the family bond.
Right.
You're property of the government,
Right.
and you cannot ask questions. It's just how he made it was a wonder too. But let me just share that.
Unknown caller.
Oh,
And
pardon this interruption.
yeah, just shut it off. Yeah.
There we go.
Anyhow, yeah, we can talk about him later on. As my mother arrived in Berlin with me and the war began, the battle of the first front, then my father said to my mother, Alina, why don't you go to the pension where you were born and where she always got the food from? And so and she took me along. Well, there was still train service, yeah. And we stayed in Rapinje, and we lived on the last house of that village. So as the war front came closer, we put a huge white sheet on the gable of the
Wow.
yeah. And they said, well, when would the first tank become, or the first military people? And we waited, and all of a sudden, some private cars came. With a black car, they drove in. There was not one shot fired.
Really?
Oh yeah. And we were then in the Russian zone.
Right.
And oh yeah. And now my dad didn't know whether we were still alive or whether we were killed. And so he picked up his bicycle and began traveling from Berlin-Bukow, from the house to Rapinje, 66 kilometers. And he was gone about driving about maybe a kilometer or so, came a Russian soldier. He said, that's my bicycle. You're an enemy, so you can defend yourself.
Right.
So he took the bicycle and he said to put up with it. A short distance thereafter, another Russian soldier came. You're a Russian soldier. He didn't speak Russian. He said, no. What could you say? And when you're an enemy, you have no rights.
Right.
So what did this they were all young soldiers. What did he? He gave my dad, and you call it ohrfeige,
Yeah.
a slap in the face. I mean, really hard. Never,
Right.
It was not really love. And he lost the hat. The Germans also wear a hat, yeah.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the young soldier said, you couldn't be a soldier. You have too much hair.
You see. And then he let him go.
And then he let him go. Yeah. And they just another wonder.
And eventually your dad made it to you guys after the war.
Yeah, I have a little more yet. And he was close to Wiesenburg,
Uh-huh.
where we always had traveling with the train. And in the forest during wartime, you have either spies who hide out, soldiers who are fleeing, or whatever. Anybody is dangerous. But my dad had to go through. And so, what could you do? And he was tired. He had walked already 50 kilometers.
Could you imagine walking 50 kilometers?
Oh, he
you
was
guys?
sore. And
That's
then,
crazy.
and he had to go through the forest. There's no other way. And while in Europe, or in Europe, you have first a village, then you have acreage, then you have forest.
Right.
So you have to go forest now, and then the last kilometer or 2 kilometers, he had to go through. All of a sudden, beside him, here comes a Russian soldier
On
a horse.
On a horse.
on a horse.
So you know he's at least like an officer. or
Yeah,
something.
he was not a commander. That's
Yeah.
the credit. Anyway, he He walked right beside my dad, always looked down, smiled, but didn't say anything. My father didn't speak Russian.
Right.
And he went, and my dad was glad he was there. And then it came to the abertura, to the opening, and then the soldier turned around. Who was the soldier?
Just by himself on a horse.
All by himself.
Wow.
Why would you protect my father?
Wow.
And then my father arrived in the evening on his knees. He couldn't walk anymore. He was so sore.
Wow.
Well, we were still, I was sleeping on the floor with my cousins. My mother and her sisters slept in the bed. He said, "There's some noise outside. There could be a dog." So they looked outside the window and no, that's Uncle Walter.
Uncle Walter, right?
Uncle Walter, yes.
Wow.
And he was sore. After about 3 days, he healed up, and then I had to walk the 60 kilometers home.
Wow.
So it bothers me. So.
I mean, it's nowadays as we have a lot of wars going on nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the West or in the countries that aren't really that affected by it might not really understand as much, but
I pray every day for the Ukrainians, from the Ukraine, because I don't see in them Russian, but I see in them people who have to go through now what we went through. So I identify further.
Right.
So not politically.
Yeah, not politically, but just, and then also there's also
You identify.
Right, and that's the thing that we need to always remember is that the humanality, we're all human, no matter where you come from, no matter where you were born, we're human. So having that human aspect, we can't forget. Just because someone might not look like us doesn't mean that they're not a human too.
No, you obtain the scars. We always stay with you. Just like a scar from the jungle. So. Anyway.
So, yeah, I mean,
ask question.
Do you think it was it could have been possible for Hitler to have escaped the bunker? Because they, on hunting Hitler, if you guys look at it, they had a lot of theories. He could have gotten through the tunnels to Tempelhof, and then off of Flugsort.
No, there's no flying going on.
But as you know, there was a lot of Nazis that escaped to South America, Argentina, Brazil.
Yeah, I heard many stories like this. But what you may not know, Hitler had a nurse.
Okay.
She made him a vegetarian.
Really?
And it could have been an Adventist nurse.
Really?
And so, but I assume, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a prophet.
Right, because back then, who was vegetarian? In
but
Germany?
In Germany, right.
Of everything.
They're heavy meat eaters. My mother, we had lots of meat always in the home. Anyway, that's in the years gone by. And that Hitler probably realized his end was come to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew he would be punished or shot or poisoned or whatever, that he might say, well, I prefer to commit suicide, because they claim right outside the Reichstag that he blew himself up.
Right.
And just like, for instance, if you know the story, did you know the huge young fellow one of the judges.
It'll come to us, the judges.
Samson.
Samson,
Samson, See, Samson, he lost his eyes.
Right.
And what was his last act?
Exactly.
Venge my eyes. My eyes.
In the Bible, the story of Samson is a beautiful story as well. You can definitely... In Judges. You can definitely find a lot of inspiration from it.
And yet, he committed suicide. Will Samson be saved?
We'll see.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, it's not.
Read in Hebrews 11.
Yeah, he'll be in heaven. That's what we want to be. Now, but a lot of other Nazi youth escaped.
They went to the Argentina and Chile.
Yeah, it went through Argentina and Chile. Now, when you were, so fast forward just a little bit for this time, when you were in South America as a missionary, and you were a radio ham operator, did you ever come across any of these Nazis that has escaped? Because there you were, someone who was in the Hitler Youth, but you were not a part of the party, but you're German and you're down there. And I felt like there could have been some crossover in some times or someplace, or they might have seen you and felt like we could talk to you.
I have to shift back a little bit more. But when we left, oh no, that's later on. in the 90s, I went to the Caucasus
Okay.
to speak in the city of Neuendorff,
Mm-hmm.
and there I met Germans, and they were so happy that I could talk to a Berliner.
Yeah.
And did they ever fluchen,
Really?
cussing about communism, how
Really?
they hated it.
Wow.
And I don't use language like this,
Yeah, no.
but see, so it was much later on. But I felt how these people felt oppressed and didn't like it at all.
Right, because if in the series Hunting Hitler, they showed a lot of different areas, like what was that place called? There's a village that they were built by Germans and they only spoke German in this little village in Chile, I think it was.
Southern Argentina
Yeah,
and southern Chile, there are a lot of Germans,
right,
and they're quite well prosperous. They grow fruit, etc.
right. Well, we'll never
But
know
I
until
don't follow
heaven.
stories.
Right,
I want to have evidence.
that's important.
Yeah,
That's
and
important.
that's why I've heard that she was an Adventist nurse,
Mhm.
and that's why he
He went
became
vegetarian.
vegetarian. Yeah,
Wow.
and then he probably was desahuciado. He was
Yeah.
so desperate. I'm going to be killed brutally, or punished, or whatever, and he'd rather be committing suicide.
What is something that you miss from, besides your family, obviously, but is something from Germany, as in Berlin, something that you miss? Maybe something that is no longer more, or something that you learned, like a life principle, or something that you miss?
Yeah, it's like this. Those who know Germany, in Germany, you have about 14 dialects, and the Berliners, they're very special. Not that they're especially intelligent. They always say that the Berliner Schnauze,
Okay.
so it has a big mouth.
Right.
We are very blunt, we are very frank, and we're very close together. And I would challenge anyone to go to Berlin right now. They have a special impression about Berlin. Berliners have their own personality. We have known each other. We've seen each other 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And that's we feel each other very close. That's typical Berliner.
Would you go back to Berlin right now?
If I would be able to walk.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe that'll be the next episode. We'll take him to comment below if you want to see Siegfried Neuendorff back in Berlin.
Yeah,
That would be
well.
amazing, right?
But not that I would start crying, but it bothers.
Yeah.
And the city has completely changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I went back in 1980 and 1981. I went for my children, our children, to know the area. The first time we went, we visited this house here, and I went into the kitchen, stretched out. There was about the kitchen that wide, yeah. And then the next time we went one more time. It was destroyed. They built apartment units.
Right.
So it's a new area right now. And but naturally, there's a song in Berlin. Ich hab noch einen Koffer in Berlin.
Oh, I have a suitcase.
I still have a suitcase in Berlin,
Oh.
so I like to go back again. So
Well, let's see what we can do. I want to go back too. The food alone is delicious.
Yeah.
Can't find potatoes like they
Kartoffel.
have. Kartoffel. You can't find them here like they have them over there. Question for you.
go ahead.
You then, after the war and then after the Russian and the American split Berlin, right? Then your mom finds out. Once again, your mom is just leading by faith and actions, right?
She wore the pants.
So, right? And she found an advertisement, if I'm correct.
Now it's like this. She was an Deutsche Lloyd insurance agency.
Okay.
And we always had to collect instead of other people playing, we always had to work, yeah.
Right.
So on Sunday was a bicycle, we had to collect the monthly fare for Deutsche Lloyd.
Mhm.
And there was one family who had immigrated to California. So my mother had the idea, writing to them a letter. Can you find a sponsor for us? And they answered, no, we're too poor people. We don't have any associates yet. But
In California, the church.
Yeah.
Was too poor.
I know they were Catholics.
Oh, to the people who.
To these friends.
Oh, the friends that went over
Catholic
there.
family, a nice family, and they said, but here in Los Angeles, there's a newspaper, the Deutsche Staatszeitung, the German national newspaper paper in German. And here, I just detect, I don't think whether I have it here yet, and they have a camp meeting in Linwood. And why didn't you write to them? And the moment when I arrived from West Germany, I worked as a tailor in the city of Essen for a year.
Wow.
My mother had wrote me, Siegfried, you come home, but don't tell the employer that you want to immigrate. I arrived there, said, Siegfried, I write a letter. You take the letter right now to the airport. And you have to move fastly. I drove to Templo with a bicycle, actually, and that letter arrived Saturday morning here in Linwood, a camp meeting.
The timing is only explained
It's
by
not good luck.
It's God's timing.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why I'm not worried about the future. I don't worry about it. Yes.
That's true. You shouldn't worry about the future. And
No.
there's a lot of people say now, when you get onto a plane, you don't ask who the pilot is, and if you get on a bus, you don't ask like, oh, you just have faith that they're going to be driving. You know, you pray and hope the best. So if you're going to trust a bus driver or a airplane pilot, can't you trust God? Right? That's the whole theory about it.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, I don't know, I could be dying today, but I don't worry about it.
Right.
But I want to make sure that I fulfill the role which has been given to me.
Right.
And to how we made it to South America, we discussed it a bit.
That's amazing. I mean, let's just keep going. Are you ready to keep going? You want to tell them?
I'm all right.
You ready? All right, here we
But
go.
I have to apologize. I can't stop.
We'll take a pause and then we'll be right back, okay?
These are